Okay. Number one thing, forget about the tunnels. They don't affect you right now anyway, okay? You can't do a damn thing about it. You got to try and learn what you can take care of.
Right.
And right now, they fraudulently got you in as a slave owner. That's what the big problem is out here in this whole damn system. The bankers, basically, everything that Abraham Lincoln tried to set up back in the 1860s, basically the bankers turned around and brought in this fraudulent persons into the play and then made them slaves. And then they're holding that against the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, getting you to violate those amendments with persons, when a slave was really supposed to be applied strictly to a living individual. Now, when you think about it, how can a slave owner be a judge over another slave owner? I'm asking this as a question to you people.
Well, they can't, but now they bring it up.
Yeah, you've got to bring it up.
True.
Yeah, how can that judge be sitting there as a judge if he's a slave owner also?
Right.
If he's got a Social Security account, or if he's got a driver's license, or anything like that, he's a slave owner. He's in violation of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments also. And see, that's what they're getting you in on, is basically you are the slave owner, and you're a criminal. That's how they get you to be a criminal. Pretty simple. It had to be real simple in how they went about this thing, but the people can't see simple, okay? The old KISS scenario. Keep it simple, stupid. And these people are pretty damn stupid. But they're not stupid enough that they can't trick us into something. So who's the really stupid one? We are. Because we didn't see what was going on here. Yeah, you can take every one of these judges down now when you understand the 14th Amendment. Everybody in this country has taken an oath of allegiance to support and defend the Constitution, especially if they went through a public school system with the Pledge of Allegiance. So right there, now all these people in office, they've taken a previous oath of office to support and defend the Constitution, and they're in violation of it because they're violating the 14th Amendment by being slave owners. 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments by being slave owners. You have to play like old Abraham, basically out of the Bible. How did he come out of the system? He basically did an Emancipation Proclamation and got rid of his slaves. Okay? Now, when you turn around and do your Social Security in this process, all the funds that are held in the Federal Reserve banking system, okay, the credits, all of your letter of credits, and you have a letter of credit when you sign that Social Security card for at least about $600 to $1 million, bare minimum. and then all deposited credits that went into that slave's account. Now, the slave can't hold those credits any longer. All those credits have to come back to the lawful inheritor, you, as the living. Your federal ecclesiastical entitlements and vested estate, letters of credit and asset credit, and justly deposited and inherited credits have to be restored to you now as an ex-slave owner. You need to really read that second sentence in the 14th Amendment, Section 4 of the 14th Amendment. That's what keyed me in the other night when I kept going over this and looking at that 14th Amendment in the process to see, hey, what's really going on here? I was looking at the first sentence and saying, hey, we've got the right to do these set-offs. But then I got thinking, wait a minute, we're slave owners in the process now. That's why we can't access our funds. So they're preventing us under sentence 2 from accessing our funds because we're acting as slave owners. That second sentence says, but neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debts or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligations, claims shall be held illegal and void. You get a bill from the IRS. What is the IRS? Internal Revenue Slave Tax. It's a slave tax. Social Security is not really Social Security. It's the social slave. And then they're putting their charges against that by bondage of that slave. They're using your slaves out here for their benefit. You're allowing them to be hired out right now. So when you do the Emancipation Proclamation, you are basically terminating your ownership of those slaves because you're freeing them. Now they're indigent and illiterate, and they have to become wards of the state. The state can't own them, okay? They become wards of the state. The state can't own anything. I tried to explain that to you before. State is a corporation. A corporation owns nothing. And they have to zero their books at the end of the year. So they can't even lawfully carry anything over unless it's slated for a project the next year or something. I think there's a 3-year time limit on building a building or something like that they put funds aside and carry that over. But see, then, again, that's being held in an off-budget account. Now, when we basically get rid of our slaves by this emancipation, then we fall under the first sentence in Section 4. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in for suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. You can put a draw in for your pension or your bounties from those accounts. But basically, they're going to have to terminate that banking slave account. The Federal Reserve Bank can no longer hold those assets. You've essentially come in and shut down that bank account. You're going to have to write the letters up appropriately to either the Financial Services via State Attorney General's office. You want all the credits back that you basically gave the state for your driver's license that they're holding underneath there, for your voter registration, for your certificate of title person. You got a bunch of them out here that they're going to have to start coughing up. And see, that's what's being held in the CAFR funds, that they have to cough that up. Now, you take your receipts now, once you've done your emancipation, and send them in, and they're going to have to reimburse you that, because those receipts, because that is now a valid public debt that is owed to you. This is what everybody out here has been totally missing. We thought we were the ones that were being the slaves or the indentured servant. No, it was the fictional person. And basically they make it very obvious when they give you that Social Security card. You are the owner of this card or this account. That means you are the owner of that slave, your person, and account number. So you just became a slave owner with that Social Security card. We tried several other items in this to terminate this, but no, it's got to be this Emancipation Proclamation. And that's when I kept looking at that word in that second sentence there in the 14th Amendment, Section 4, emancipation of any slave, and then they become wards of the state. Now, when they become wards of the state cannot hire them out. They're dead in the water. Okay? And we're not coming in there to basically cover their ass anymore.
So doing that estoppel by deed was probably one of the best things we could have done.
It was a starting point. You have to do this Emancipation Proclamation.
Right.
Abraham Lincoln tried to show us what we needed to do. You have to free your slaves. That other document didn't free the slaves. Like I said in the second paragraph on there, I am freely releasing all of my U.S. monetary banking fraudulent assignment slaves, only for them to become wards of the corporate religious United States. And this United States that was created in 1871 is a religious corporation. It's set up on the same foundation that the Catholic Church is set up, or the Episcopalian, or the Anglican Church, or the Lutheran, or the Greek Orthodox. They're a religion. This all United States and their court system Who's their God? Well, right now it's Obama. They're trying to put Hillary in to be the God of the United States. And that is in total violation of the First Amendment. That the government, corporate governments that we created, cannot set up any religion. And both the states are nothing but churches, religious churches, under the papacy, United States. And then Obama out there claiming that he's God. And everybody's going right along with him. Yes, you're God, you're God. He's just a regular shithead is what he is. He's a traitor to this country from the get-go, along with all the Bushes, the Clintons, all the way back. There's only very few of them that really tried to stand up. JFK tried to stand up for the people, and they took him down. Reagan tried to stand up for the people, but basically they sort of shut him up and put him off in the background so that George Bush could run the country as vice president and then turn around and run it again for a couple terms as president. They're all bankers. And they've got everybody out here being a slave owner of your persons. Military selective service. It's really selective slave. And then basically they held the assets under the military selective slave number and also the social slave number. And then also, like I've got a VA slave identification number.
Wow.
I'm sorry about having everybody get all these EINs, but now we know what they really are. They're slaves. They're Internal Revenue slaves. EIN persons. I kept trying to figure out why in the hell am I still getting these damn fraudulent tax bills. I got one from Cincinnati for $5,000 against my estate person, and I got one for $10,000 against my foreign grantor person from Cincinnati. Previously, I got them from Atlanta, Georgia. Well, they're all frauds. They're trying to tax my slave, my EIN slaves. Even though they haven't done any work and gotten paid for any work. Why are these accounts being held down in Puerto Rico? Because they're being held as mortmain accounts, and they're also accounts that are in total violation of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which Puerto Rico is not under. Because Puerto Rico is not a state, so they do not have to succumb to basically slave persons to be a violation of the Constitution, constitutional amendments. And then all the 16th through the 27th Amendments are all total banking fraudulent amendments anyway. Because they've infringed upon basically the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. Every one of those 16th through the 27th amendments has violated the first 10 amendments. But how could they try and get those things through? Because you were a slave owner. And your vote really didn't count. They're going to do whatever they want because your vote really don't count. They're going to put who they want into those offices because your vote does not count. A slave owner's vote does not count. You guys understand that?
Yep.
A slave owner has lost all his rights here in this country. You want your rights back? You better do the Emancipation Proclamation and get this sent out. And even to the diocese. Roman Catholic, whatever you want to do, whichever diocese you want to go to. Roman Catholic, Episcopalian, you name it. Because they all go back to the Church of Rome. You send it into the appropriate Vicar General. Your passport, okay? I added that one in under all of my state of slave persons. I added in per the United States - passport person and then put that 9-digit passport number on there. That's issued out by the Department of State, which is the fraudulent State Department, chartered State Department. We have to go, when we come out of the system, we're also going to notify the federal district chief judge for the federal district court. And then we, if you want to, I would also send it in to the senior judges, but you're coming in your ecclesiastical capacity, notifying those senior judges that you have gotten rid of all your slaves. Now they have to hear any of your demands for a court action, an ecclesiastical court action. The senior judges are basically retired out of the service of the fraudulent United States court system. The secondary chartered court system that was set up by Roosevelt in 1938. You also go, like I said, you go into the attorney generals, you go into the financial management centers, you go into the federal district court, and you go into the Church of Rome. You can also send this into the IRS Inspector General, the Social Security Inspector General, and the Postmaster Inspector General. And then all mailings from now on, you will turn around and send those into the financial management service centers there in Philadelphia or Kansas City. You no longer own them. So basically, anything that comes in those persons' names, you don't own them. You send them in. You've got your document now on file. I would turn around and make this one up for your situation, okay? And then basically make several individual ones, put a certified mail number up the top also, and do an individual one for each filing. And basically send all these out, certified mail, to those appropriate people. Don't worry about losing your Social Security. You're not going to lose it. You're going to get more back in return out of a deal. If you're afraid of that, wait until basically you get your next check and then send it in. So you got roughly a 30-day period in the process. And then basically if you don't get payment or settlement, then you start complaining to the Social Security Administration in the damn process about the fraud. Turn around and you'll be able to take them in. I would wait a couple weeks after you've sent this in. And basically if you don't get resolved from them at that point in time, then you go to the Ecclesiastical Court and file your charges there. They have to give back the credits that they're fraudulently holding. Those slaves cannot hold those credits any longer. And then basically all the contracts that you have out here, like my hospital bill, basically that's going to be voided out. Because the hospital turned around and they've been writing bonds against my slaves out here, using them all this time. Now, when you send these into the Financial Service Center, to the district court, to the church, to the Attorney General's office, you're going to have to tell them that they are now responsible for filling out any tax forms, okay, IRS, Internal Revenue, slave forms, because they are now the lords over those slaves. And we, as now a non-slave owner, we're over in the de jure side. We're the source of all funds for the corporations. And all just entitlements have to go back to the source. We are the source. Just like Neo in the movie Matrix. He had to go to the source. He had to free the slaves that were made in his image. The Mr. Smiths. Now, basically, they just all of a sudden go away because they can't operate any longer. Like I said, they're illiterate and indigent corporate persons. Wow. Look up what it says about indigent persons in the dictionary. They cannot hold credits. Therefore, since they have nothing, and they're illiterate, they can't be hired out, and they can't support themselves on their own because they have nothing. So they're dead in the water. And you just turn the tables on the bankers and shut them down from causing you any further harm. Okay. Open up the lines, Tom, and anybody's got any questions, go ahead and ask them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Patrick.
Yes.
Got a question for you.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do is justify everything you're saying after the fact of 1861, when Lincoln started issuing those private letters to the public. What are they called? Executive orders. Now, if the government's been shut down since then, nothing.
No, the government hasn't been shut down. Okay.
What do you mean
That's
it's
a
not
fallacy.
been shut down?
The government has never shut down.
Never? The government?
Never.
Then people are lying out there then.
Yeah. There's a hell of a lot of liars out here. That's why it took so long to figure this stuff out, because there's too damn many liars out here, and there's no one really looking for the truth.
Well, I'm looking. That's why I'm here listening to you.
Okay? You need to look at the 13th, 14th, and 15th. You know what date the Emancipation Proclamation was issued on?
No.
What's that one?
The Emancipation Proclamation. What date was that issued on?
1864, right?
No.
When?
The 22nd of September, 1862. It went into effect on the 1st of January, 1863.
Okay,
the 13th Amendment was signed in 1865. The 14th Amendment was signed in 1868. The night before was the Expatriation Act, which was passed and put on the books in the statutory laws, allowing you to come out from underneath the control of the monetary bankers if and when they took control as a foreign corporation. The 15th Amendment was passed in 1870. 1871 was when the bankers set up a copyrighted United States religious church corporation.
Still the same government?
No.
Wow.
It's a religion. It's a new religion. The original government was not a religion. The
okay, when was it then the president
is a religion?
Yeah.
It's
when was it that the president?
It's a Jezebel system.
Okay. When was it the president was authorized to have departments?
Basically, the first department out there was the Department of the Treasury, which was set up by the Secretary of the Treasury at the time, Hamilton, a true traitor to the country. He did that because he had to get a national monetary system going, and he had to be able to deal with private bankers. So they set up the First National Bank, but they couldn't set it up under the Treasury Department. So they had to set up the Department of the Treasury, a secondary chartered organization, sort of off budget in the process, because Congress would not come out and authorize and standardize a national currency.
Okay, I'm following you.
Okay? And see,
But
Congress
still-
really couldn't do that because Congress cannot access the Treasury. The only ones that can lawfully access the Treasury is we the people, because the Treasury belongs to we the people. We the people in this country are the federal central government. Take out the word federal and put people in there. The people, federal government. We're the ones that elect the officers for the corporations. The corporations are not to rule over the people, but they can rule over you if you are a slave owner because you're standing in violation of the Constitution. 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment.
I thought all that applied to the District of Columbia.
No. The amendments, basically the lawful amendments, apply to the whole nation. Read them. Now, even the 16th through the 27th Amendments, which are totally fraudulent, de facto United States all capital, chartered, 1871 chartered religious or governmental organization. They apply to the whole nation out here, but it's a false belief. It's totally false and fraudulent.
But who decided the 16th was illegal?
It's illegal because basically that was setting up the Internal Revenue Service. The Internal Revenue slave taxing system.
Okay, I believe that.
Yeah,
But somebody had
it's a
to
slave
authorize
taxing system. It's not a service. It's a slave. Well, what is a slave? A servant. So they play on words in the process out here to hide them away. What they're really saying is slave is basically service. That's your service. Is your slave.
Hmm.
Okay, are you saying there's no martial law then?
No.
You're saying there's
a
martial
religious law out here, a United States corporate religion law, which is all fraudulent, and they can only go after slave owners. They can't go after one who has done an Emancipation Proclamation and freed all of his slaves. Because now you stand as an ecclesiastical freed man, and you have freed all your slaves at the same time, just like Jefferson did with his slaves.
You're a bright man figuring that out. I got to give you credit for that.
Yeah,
I've never
even
heard
George
anyone
Washington
else.
freed his slaves.
Yeah. You're very
Now, they claim a lot of slaves still work for them, but they did it of their own free will. They stayed on because basically they were getting benefits, but they weren't staying on as slaves because they'd been freed.
Well, Patrick, I believe the only way it can all end truly is we do another civil war. Get it over with.
Why? That is ludicrousy.
Why?
Do an Emancipation Proclamation. You start standing as a free man. Then you start helping your neighbors understand the same thing.
And live under the same tyranny?
We'll shut down the tyranny. Start giving all the slaves back to these guys. and then they have no control over us.
Mm-hmm.
They don't control my car. They don't control me because I don't have a driver's license. I don't have a slave that they can tax or write a ticket against. I've not given my car to them in a slave system so that they can write any taxes upon that car. They can only tax a slave. And they can only harm a slave owner.
All right, let's get your letter going. But I got a problem. I was in the military. You know darn well that once you're in the military and you get out, they got you. They got you. You know that.
No, they don't got you.
All right, why not?
Why not? Because basically you have entitlements coming from the military if you did your 2 years of honorable service. Read the 14th Amendment, Section 4. What does it say? It talks about bounty.
Mm-hmm.
You have a bounty, a service bounty, military service bounty, that you are entitled to.
Well, I want it now. All right,
You're
how
going to
can
have
we
to
work
work
this letter?
for it. You're going to have to get rid of all your slaves first before you get it.
Yeah. Okay, then how do you go about getting the money? If you done took yourself out of the system, aren't you taking
You
yourself
will
out
have
totally?
your DD 214. The Social Security number and the slave numbers will no longer apply, but you've got the DD 214 that says honorable service.
Yes.
See, those
That's
other
cool.
numbers up there are now dead in the water. You freed them
Except
up.
for one.
Huh?
Except for one. One number.
Except for what one?
I have a service number.
That one goes away too. They replaced
No, it
most of those service numbers with the Social Security number.
That's correct.
Yes, I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, you sure do.
Okay? When you terminate those numbers, the only number that you will retain, okay, is your birth certificate registration number, because that is a registered entitlement. That is not a slave number.
Are you talking about the number from the county?
I'm talking about the number that came out of the Treasury Department out of Philadelphia to give you access to the Treasury, to the we the people Treasury of the country. What did the Social Security need from you? They needed that number so that they could do a letter of credit draw from the Treasury and move the credits over to the Federal Reserve Bank, to the We the People's Bank. You got to follow the money, and you got to understand the banking and the accounting system that's out here, and how the slaves had to be in place in certain processes before they could go any further. They needed to give us our access to the Treasury. We had access prior to that, but we had to go through the Secretary of the Treasury to get that. You had to do a request to the Secretary of the Treasury to cancel a debt that you had. And that's on the books in the Statutes at Large, Volume 1. About insolvent. The courts back at that point in time could also process it for you. But see, the people did not know that because they'd never read or scoped out any of the statutes at large back there in the early 1790s. People's mentality is only 6 months in time frame. Anything over that, and basically they're lost. They never look at history. They never study history. The same scenario, like I said, goes all the way back to Abraham when he came out of the system back in the book of Genesis. And then Abraham Lincoln was just a reincarnation of Abraham out of the book of Genesis. He was trying to show and put the process to be able to come out and combat the bankers. Moses did the same thing. Daniel. Most all of the prophets out there did the same thing. Jesus did the same thing. In the modern time, you still need your baptismal certificate in the process, though, because that is your living document that proves you're alive. Every other document you have out here is essentially a dead document. So when you take your baptismal certificate along with your birth certificate, then it shows you're still alive. Because, see, that birth certificate can be issued to either a dead person or a living person. It says right on there, was the child born alive or was the child born dead? Come on, people, open up your eyes. That only a baptismal certificate can be given to a living person. You can't baptize the dead. Even though some people have tried to do that, basically that is a total violation of the laws of Rome, which is the key laws that we're operating under here right now, because those laws are the Christ laws, cast in iron. Basically the laws of Moses. The just laws. The ecclesiastical laws, if you want to look at it, of right and wrong. You have state ecclesiastical courts and you have the federal ecclesiastical courts. You'll find the ecclesiastical courts at the state by going to the senior judges at the Supreme Court of the state. Not the Supreme Court judges, but the senior judges in the Supreme Court building. And there's at least 3 or 4 senior judges, and it's got to be a male senior judge at each federal district.
All right, Pastor, back to your letter. We only make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters, correct?
No, you can make as many as you want. That's what I said.
No, I mean the addressees, 5 addressees.
No, you can make more than that. I just put 5 down there as a reference. That's an example.
Gotcha.
Okay? I'm going to send one off to the Social Security Inspector General's office. I'm going to send one off to the Postmaster General's office, Inspector General's office. I'm going to maybe even send one to the FBI.
Well, the question I have for you then is, why don't you have credits released on it?
What? Why don't I have what?
Credits released.
Read the last paragraph.
It's a process. You got to get the process done first.
No, read the last paragraph.
Okay.
I say that all my entitlements have to come back to me.
Yep.
And my estate. Read what the word is right before estate. Then go and look up the word in the dictionary.
Vested.
Vested.
Yes.
Do you know what the word vested means?
Who?
Vested. That's something that belongs to you. You are the vested owner of those credits. You either have the credits given over to you because you've already drawn them out of the treasury, or you turn around and have them put back into the treasury, and then you can draw against the treasury at your will as a non-slave owner.
Well, you say ex-slave owner, correct?
Yeah, you're going to become an ex-slave owner as soon as you put this Emancipation Proclamation in.
Okay. Well, your letter looks good.
Huh?
Your letter looks good. I'm impressed with your letter. It's the best thing you come out with.
Well, I've been close on this whole damn deal all along, okay?
Right.
That's why I said, in a lot of cases, we have thrown enough shit at them that we were so damn close that we scared the living shit out of them in the process. And yeah, I mean, basically, now we know basically in any court act, how can they lawfully judge you if they're a slave owner also? They can't. You could turn around and file charges against them too. And you will never be seen in their courts because they can't take a non-slave owner into their court. The only thing they can really take into their court is the slaves and then try and get the owners to be held liable for the slaves. So if you have no slaves, you can't go into those courts because they're all just slave courts. Banking slave courts. Okay, anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, I kind of wonder about how this slave owner, how Abraham was a slave owner. I don't know. I'm not that versed in that subject.
You have to go back and basically what was his father doing? His father was creating clay idols, okay?
Yeah.
So he was basically held bound into the banking system. And then when his father died, see, Abraham didn't want to go against his father in the process because his father was like most of these people out here, afraid to lose their damn Social Security account. So they wanted to stay in the system. So Abraham basically stayed with him until he died, and then he left town and shut all his accounts down and took his assets out with him.
All right. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then basically he, in operating in the lawful way, he was able to gain wealth and everything else because he wasn't giving it over to the bankers under the fraudulent interest rate, which basically interest rate will slowly take everything away from you.
Right. Usury, yeah.
Yeah.
Death grip. Anything you call it, God doesn't like it.
Well, man doesn't like it either, but man hasn't figured out how to handle it properly.
Maybe man has.
No, they keep doing it. People are buying $50,000 pickup trucks and stuff, getting in debt.
Yeah, when you could go out and buy the $60,000 vehicle tax-free and not have to have any license on it or anything like that.
For insurance, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, you turn it over to the state, and then you've got to turn around and put additional insurance on the damn thing. The state's already writing insurance bonds against that vehicle. They're getting the government is getting the beneficial ownership of our slaves for nothing.
Patrick?
Yeah.
You have the MSO for your vehicle.
Yes.
Have you played with the bond on that at all? Do you know how to use it?
Have I what?
Have you played with the bond? Do you know how to use it? Do you know what's in your hands?
Well, I know that I can go back and get the funds out of the Ford Motor Company. They're sitting there.
How?
Huh?
How would you do it?
Well, basically, I need to get this Emancipation Proclamation done, and then I can go in and I can put the charge in through the financial center and have them go and draw the funds, the credits that basically are due back over to my slave account. But instead of going to my slave, they've got to go to me.
Huh. It sounds complicated. Why don't you just tell them that? Why don't you just tell them you know it is in your hands? Why don't you go to the right people and tell them you're there for a commercial redemption?
Well, basically, in a way, I'll probably end up going into the Ecclesiastical Court, and that'll be one of the documents that I'll give to the court and have them issue the warrant to have those funds pulled out of the Federal Reserve general fund, federal fund off-budget account that's sitting there.
That sounds overly
when I get rid of all my slaves, that will then put me into the first sentence in Section 4, and basically now it will be an obligation that they owe me that debt back.
So you are in the belief that the ecclesiastical courts will somehow take you out of the jurisdiction that you placed yourself into?
No, I'm out of this jurisdiction as soon as I put this Emancipation Proclamation in. But I have to go. You have to go to the ecclesiastical courts because you have to get them to issue the warrant to the other departments.
Do you know anything about Max Bells?
The warrant has to be issued to the Treasury.
Huh.
The courts are nothing but banking courts. They're ecclesiastical banking courts, and they will issue the warrant for the settlement of the debt that's owed to us over to the treasurer to go and draw the funds out of the Federal Reserve Bank or out of the de jure treasury.
Do you get mail? Do you get mail at your place of occupation or residence or domicile or whatever you want to call it?
I get junk mail and stuff, too.
Yeah, everybody gets that. Do you know what's on that mail?
Yeah, basically debt money.
How much debt money is on each
system?
Yeah, how much debt money is on each commercial instrument that you're getting in the mail?
Well, probably enough. Okay.
Oh no, how much? How much do you think is on that mail?
You tell me.
$20,000 to $50,000 per letter.
Oh, well.
In stocks. In your eyes, in plain sight.
Okay, that's if it's got a barcode on it.
Ah, so you do know.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you tell these people that?
basically they've got enough to handle right now, okay?
No, they don't. You're telling them to go in a different direction that they are not going to be able to go.
I'm not telling them to go in a different direction. I'm telling them to basically get out of the system, okay? The proper way. Get rid of your slaves. Get your assets out of the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay?
What system are they in?
What system are they a part of? Okay? The receipts. Okay, if you want to claim that all those envelopes that you get are also receipts, then basically speak up and tell the people about that.
I have been.
Okay. But you can't get paid on those until you do your Emancipation Proclamation. Because the government is not obligated to settle up with you while you're still a slave owner.
I agree. You should give back to Caesar exactly what Caesar gave you.
Caesar was a good guy in some regards. He fought the bankers.
They are whatever we think they are.
Okay? Brutus and cohorts that killed Caesar on the Ides of March, they were the bankers.
Were you there? Do you know?
Basically, that story has been out there, and basically that's been recorded too damn well in history.
Were you there? Did you see it? Did you hear it? Did you feel it? Then you don't know it.
I know a lot more about that than basically that I can believe that shit more than half the other bullshit about Jesus dying on a stinking cross. Okay? Because he didn't die on a stinking cross.
No shit.
Crucifixion was basically a means of canceling the contracts. You wrote a red cross on the contract.
But there are other
back
colors.
In Moses' time, they put a red cross above the house.
And what does that red cross symbolize? What does the red cross symbolize?
That basically it is no longer a valid contract.
No,
it's
been
not.
terminated.
Today? Can that be done today?
You have put life over death.
No, you have not.
Yes, you have.
Red is the color of blood. It is the energy that you give to them, that you put into the note.
No, red is basically you put life over death. You just canceled the dead contract. Think about it.
I don't need to think about it. I know it. I feel it. I've seen it.
Well, show the proof then. Okay? Everybody tells me to show my proof. I'm giving you the valid stuff that's right in the law. Stay away from the UCCs. Stay
Lawful
away from
or
all
legal?
The codes. You can't use any of those religious banking instruments or laws.
Okay, so you're telling me I can't use any of that, and yet you want to tell these people to go to an ecclesiastical court because that's somehow going to magically give them power to let you out? When you walk in there with documents that say you're this person and you don't profess to be anything other than that person? When maybe someone on this call doesn't quite know what they are yet?
What are you trying to get at here? Okay, I told him about the baptismal certificate and also about the birth certificate. Okay, the two different meanings of those two certificates. The baptismal certificate is the one that proves you're alive. That puts you in the ecclesiastical court, but you have to be able to come in as you are clean hands.
I'm alive.
And to do that, you have to free all your slaves. Right now, you've got dirty hands.
Do I?
Yes.
Dirty hands of?
Huh?
My hands are dirty from what?
From being a slave owner.
No, they're not. They're dirty from giving energy into that system. They're dirty from putting the charge into that system.
And how did you put those charges in? May I ask you very nicely?
I touched them. I possessed them. I gave them my energy willingly, freely, without realizing what it was I had done.
You allowed a fictional person to be created in your name. Okay?
Of course I did. I didn't
Yeah.
know it because I wasn't smart enough to realize it at the time.
Okay? Now you've got fucking dirty hands, boy.
I cleaned them.
No, you haven't cleaned them until you do a freedom of your slaves. You
I
have
have.
slaves that you are using out here.
No, I've given them all back.
Okay, what was your process?
How did you give them back?
I gave it all back.
How did you give them back?
Doesn't matter how I did it. I did it in a way that suited me
It
best.
does matter if you're going to make comments when
Hey.
you're speaking. What did you do?
Tell us how you did it.
Yeah.
You're making a statement here. Back
Yes,
your facts up with a
Right.
proper statement, boy.
Mary, Feline, Diana, would you vouch for the document that I showed the three of you?
There's other people on the call. You have to be fair about this. You're coming in, you're making matter-of-fact comments without really explaining in detail or making a valid point. You're kind of just attacking in a way, it seems like. So how about either give a solution that you found that has worked or back off a little politely.
I think
Was that
he
to
does
me or
here-
Pat?
he has his own theory to sell, but he's not going to sell it here. He's just going to drop teasers.
No, I'm not going to drop pieces. I'm willing to give anyone whatever they want to see what it is they're doing here.
I'm asking
How much
you
you
for it.
charging?
Then
That's
just
what
talk
we
about
asked.
it, man. You're just hiding behind a bush. You're behind.
How much you
you're hiding.
charging for that info? What's your charge? What's your price
Yeah,
on that
are you
info?
charging for it?
That sounds more like a abolished.
I think he's charging for it. He's going to send you to a website and you got to fill it in and pay a price.
Well, just let him speak, guys. If you have something to say, go ahead and explain to everyone what you're speaking to.
He's out for a profit.
Hi, this is Eric. No,
What's your website? What is your website?
he's
I
not.
think he's a BS. I think he's full of BS.
Me?
There's only one way, lawful way
You
that
got to
you can
be
do
a
this.
BS. You're not giving us
I
a
agree.
website.
I agree. Lawful.
You're not,
You just
you're not
give them another
giving us a
keyword there. Lawful. What is lawful?
There's only one lawful way, and that is to do an Emancipation Proclamation and free your slaves. You turn all of those persons that you created out here, and like I show on my document here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items there of persons. I probably got several more. I didn't list my marriage contract. I didn't list all my other driver's licenses that I had in other states. They're probably still out there being used by those other states. Those persons, those are slaves. Okay? The living man is not really a person.
He's an entity.
We're not an object.
No, not an entity. God.
You need to look up the definition of object in the process. I tried to put these items up there, words, for you people to look at and see what's all going on here. Okay? Emancipate, to release, to set free, as to release a minor from parental control. Emancipation, liberation from slavery or bondage. That's the only way you can get out of the system is to by liberation.
Patrick, I have a question.
Yeah.
So are you saying to get rid of our EINs, the 3 EINs we got, rescind those as well?
Yes, they're going to have to be gone too. I'm sorry. I tried to apologize there at the first of the call, saying that
Yeah. I just
I
want to get
missed-
that clear.
Yeah, I misunderstood that. We have to surrender those because those all became internal revenue slaves, okay?
Right.
IRS. So they're
Okay, then
internal revenue slaves under those EINs. That's why they were so willing to give them to us, because we were creating another slave. And then, like, what the hell happened? I got a fraudulent $5,000 fine for my damn slave, for my EIN number, and I haven't used it to draw any funds out.
So how are you going to handle that? What
I'm going to turn around and send all of those letters that I have in to the financial center in Philadelphia and say, here, I'm giving up all of these slaves. I'm freeing them. I don't need them. I can come in as the living man and put an order into the ecclesiastical court, take a copy of my birth certificate up to the federal ecclesiastical court, and get them to issue a warrant to draw funds out of the de jure treasury of the country if I need it. After, basically, when they terminate all the Social Security person and everything else, and bring all the funds out of this Federal Reserve Bank, bring them back ashore, okay? And that's what I'm saying. I'm going to put these in, and basically these courts, now as they are the wards over my slaves, they have to basically return all the property that the slave is hanging on to, that this doesn't belong to the slave, and give it back to me.
I have one more question.
I'm not freeing the slaves and say, hey, you can keep all the fucking shit that basically belongs to me at the same time. That ain't right.
Right.
Yeah, that's got to come home to the source. I was the one that gave the letters of credit to them, so now they have to return those credits back to me.
Right.
They didn't create the credits. I did. As a lawful draw against we the people's treasury.
Patrick, I got to applaud you. This stuff, what you're talking about right here, makes more sense to me than anything I've studied, learned, listened to in the last 10 years. Thank you for that.
Well, it all fits, and basically it's all backed up by the Bible. That's the key thing right there, okay? And that's what really you have to have, the real hardcore, but to see what Lincoln did prior to them setting up this fraudulent banking corporation in 1871 to try and control the people. And then how did the government get control of the people? Well, there's only one way. We had to be violating some law and become a criminal. And the only criminal capacity that we could be doing is being a slave owner, hidden away from us, not knowing that we really were a slave owner. The bankers did this very good trick, deception.
So do you think all the receipts that in the past few weeks that we have sent in, you think they'll just be sitting there and then we remind them that those are there when we send in the Emancipation?
They may be if you address that in your letter, and I want redemption for the receipts that I sent in under this certified mail number. You do this Emancipation Proclamation, and you are more than likely going to get a visit from the guys in black, because now they have to go and pick up all those dead slave bodies. and they will come and get you to authorize any other ones that you might have, releasing them. That's why I try to add on there that basically this also covers all unlisted state of slaves.
Right.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Is a bank a depositary and the government, or a private company contracted with the government, a depository?
No, the only depository that we have out here is the eastern and the western depositaries. Okay, they're the depositaries, and they hold the real gold or the assets of the people of this country.
All right. The way the IRS defines depository, it says it's a financial institution authorized to secure public money on deposit and submit a bond secured by government obligations as collateral in lieu of bonds with sureties.
But they have to have a real substance there, okay? A depository has to have the real substance. Letters of credit are not necessarily real substance.
Understand.
Okay? So basically the Federal Reserve banks are depositories, but they also took all the people's gold when they turned it in, and see, they've been moving that amount of gold around amongst the different banks to give them the capability of being a depositary also.
I see.
Because they're holding real assets. See, that's part of the fraud of the banking system, is that they move those funds around and hold them there maybe a week or so at this Federal Reserve Bank, and then move them over to another one, so that basically they can claim that they're a lawful depositary bank, when primarily they're operating mostly off of the depository letters of credit that we've issued out there, and that's where they get everybody not understanding the banking system.
Then how do you explain the depository trust company?
Basically, it is a process that they're going out and they're holding all the bonds out there, the instruments that basically we issued, like the certificate of title to the vehicle. They have a lien against all of our letters of credit. But it's all paper.
So is it a private company? It's a private company, sort of like a quasi-government organization, like Fannie Mae?
They're all private companies.
Okay.
Yeah. Who's basically behind the Social Security system? England.
I'd like to know.
Yeah, the Queen of England is one of the key supporters, and basically she's got to authorize pretty much anything that goes on in the Social Security administration.
She's the administrator.
Yeah. See, it's a foreign-owned company. Just like the United States, all capital 1871 is a private foreign company.
Another way you can think of those words is you have to remember the first syllable. Syllable is D. It's depository. That means to not posit.
ARY means lawful. ORY means fictional.
Okay.
Ori and airy.
Yeah. So the bank I have an account in, that's a ARY.
Well, they have one that they keep moving around in the ARY, okay, at the federal. See, that gold that they're moving around, that belongs to we the people. It don't belong to that bank. It's ours. Take the word federal and replace it with people in Federal Reserve Bank. That's the People's Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve dollars. It's the People's Reserve dollars.
Patrick, you may be able to ask. What about?
But they're using it as debt money because they are not releasing the credits that our slaves are holding.
You ask it.
Okay.
Like I told you, you sign a mortgage contract. You sign on the right-hand side. You release the credits for that house. You just now bought and paid that house. But they fraudulently did a fraudulent concealment, created a fictional person to hold your credits instead of taking those credits and setting off the debt. Because they couldn't make a profit on that if they took the credits that you just gave them and made the payment. So the bankers turned around and used that credits under a fraudulent slave and attached them to the slave, and then basically now you became the slave owner, and the government was not obligated to set off that debt because you're a slave owner. You didn't free that slave.
Patrick?
Yes.
Just one question on my end. Do we also send a letter of emancipation to every single bank that we've actually had, or is that advisable?
No, basically you can turn around and basically just wait until the men in black show up, and basically they will come and ask you for any other ones that you might remember having. Okay?
The unlisted ones, right.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
The only men in black I know are the ones that carry those, barreled weapons.
Yeah, the people's weapons. Just like I told the Secret Service when they came down here to see me. I said, hey, you know that car you driving out there? Said, that belongs to me.
That weapon belongs to me.
They couldn't deny it. Because they knew damn well and that property really belonged to the people. And we were just allowing them the usage of that in their governmental position. We're the ones that paid for that vehicle, not them.
Where?
The government doesn't pay for any of that shit. And if they did, they had to take it from all the tariff taxes that come into this country. And the tariff taxes are supposed to be supporting the de jure government in this country. And then the excess tariff taxes are supposed to be deposited into the de jure treasury of the country. But they have sidestepped that, and they put it over into the People's Federal Reserve Bank under a general fund, reserve fund in the bank that's being held off budget. It's surprising that all these accountants out here that went to accounting school, and I basically almost went to accounting school, that none of these accountants know any of this shit.
I bet you the Fortune 500 CFOs know.
Very few of them do.
Because the automakers who got those loans from the feds, with the grace of Congress.
Oh, you said CFOs? Yeah, CFOs probably do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, CFOs. Not
yeah,
the
because
CEOs,
basically
but
most
the
of those
CFOs.
CFOs, you know what they are? Just like almost every bank out here, the CFO of every bank, you know what their one requirement is?
You probably
they
have
gotta
to be
know,
a Mason. You probably have to be.
They got to be a 30 to upward Freemason.
Because they swear to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, they're under a false Jezebel oath, going all the way back to old Albert Pike. Basically, the Pope over America, the fraudulent Pope over America, with his claim to title coming in as a banking controller over the southern states. Yeah. Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, Tom, what was that question I was coming up with? You said you were going to ask Patrick about? Remember about the letter? I'm having difficulty trying to remember that one.
No, I don't remember your question.
Thank you.
Patrick, I was just going to put my 2 cents in on these EINs again. Whenever I got my EINs, I did an 8832 form, and which means it put me into a foreign status. So what they did was I sent the form in, the 8832, and they sent back after they processed it and sent me a letter saying, yes, we consider you as a foreign status with your EIN.
No, I just allowed you to claim that you were a foreign slave owner.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, see, basically you think you get something from these guys, but basically they're just deceiving you even worse, okay? There's only one way to come out of this system, and that is to free your slaves.
Right.
You can't surrender them. You have to free them. Because who are you surrendering them to? You're not surrendering them to anybody. They're still going to be attached to you. But when you free them, now you have severed the bonds entirely. Some of these other people may think that they've gotten remedy and stuff like that out there. They may have, okay? I'm not going to deny that. We've gotten remedy out here in certain things that we've done, okay? We've backed them off. I had traffic tickets out for 2 years out here. Basically, if they had warrants out against me for those traffic tickets, I live 5 miles north of town here. Everybody in the damn town knows me. They could have come and got me anytime they wanted to. But we'd thrown enough stuff at them, and basically they knew that basically they might ruffle the wrong feather, so we'll just let this dog lie. Let him go back to sleep. He's not harming us right now, but he could really harm us if he says the right thing or does the right thing. We don't want to risk that consequence. We looked at this from every which way, as vessel owner, as ship owner, because of the Title 46. Tried to go in that route. Basically, that was trying to operate with their codes. We don't operate with their codes. None of it. We stand over them entirely. But the only way that we can have clean hands is to basically free our slaves. Otherwise, we've got dirty hands, and we can't come into a ecclesiastical court with dirty hands.
Hey, Patrick, you like to talk about movies that have meanings like this? There's a movie called The Island. Have you seen that one? It's about insurance companies. No, I don't remember seeing that one. Insurance companies make a clone of you, and if you ever need a heart or a lung or a kidney or liver or eyeball or whatever, they just go harvest the clone that they created somewhere out in the desert. You know, they have a big facility that's a big clone factory. And a couple of the clones break free and figure out that they've been lied to, that the world's not contaminated. Their inspiration is winning a lottery that they get to go to a, quote, an island that's supposedly not contaminated. But, you know, they're all happy, and it keeps everybody cheerful and hopeful that they're going to win the lottery and get to go to the island. But really, you go down the hallway and you get harvested. This one guy figures it out, so he freaks out and leaves. Well, there's a bounty out for him. And, you know, it's a big chase to find him and his girlfriend. But near the, you know, as the movie progresses, I won't tell you about how the movie goes, but near the end, the bounty hunter realizes what's going on and goes back there and frees all the clones, which are, quote, slaves. They're biological slaves. They're clones. But it's a good movie. It's one of my favorite. I won't tell you what the middle part is, but it's pretty good.
Okay.
It reminds me of that TV series, the Logan's Run.
No, it was just a movie. Logan's Run is a different theme. It's called The Island. That's it. It's just a good movie. It's a real good movie.
Patrick, couldn't we just go in with your letter to ecclesiastical court and have the judge issue warrants directly to all the addressees? Wouldn't that give it more substance?
Well, no. Basically, the financial centers are sitting there waiting for us to come in and free our slaves. They can turn around and take care of all that stuff for us. They're tied into the Social Security. They're tied into the Secret Service. They're tied into the U.S. or the Federal, the FBI, all that, Homeland Security and everything. And see, basically, then when you freed your slaves, now Homeland Security is going to have to protect you. Because, see, you're standing in a completely different capacity now. You're not a criminal any longer. But until you do your Emancipation Proclamation and free your slaves and send it out to these guys, basically they can't do anything, and they can't take jurisdiction over your slaves and close them down. You were supposed to do this when you turned 21.
So we could use this for the large letters of credit that we sent in for funds. We can resubmit that with this proclamation.
Basically, you may end up getting something out of those now, but as soon as you free the slaves, okay?
Right. That's what I plan to do. Thank you.
They've got us on record right now, okay? We sent some of this stuff in there, so basically our names are on record.
Right.
We just have to do the follow-up and basically free the slaves.
Right.
Is there anyone else doing that, Patrick? Freeing the
slaves?
Not
that I know of.
Okay.
I haven't heard anybody out here using that Emancipation Proclamation.
That would make a good picket sign, though, right? Free the slaves.
Yeah, you got to free your slaves, and the slaves that you never even knew you had, these persons. And we know that we've created a person with every one of these documents, the driver's license. Whose name's on that driver's license? It's not yours. It's a fictional person. So that now becomes your slave to drive. Sort of like a servo in a circuit, okay? But he didn't operate. There's sort of a short in between the settlement and the servo. And we haven't fixed that portion in the process. So basically, the bankers are controlling our persons by not allowing the credits to be released from him.
Yeah.
See, that's the fraud of the banking system. And basically, most of the government people out here, half of the ones in the de facto government, have no idea about this whole system in that process. They don't understand the banking system. If they did, basically, do you think most of them would be working for this fraudulent government? Do you think they'd have a mortgage? Do you think they'd have loans out here all over the place? Do you think they'd be collecting Social Security and all that and basically doing a W-4 form? Hell no. They'd probably be out here tending to their estate if they really knew what the shit was going on.
Wow.
Doing something useful for the country instead of just surviving off of the fraudulent slave taxes. Okay, anybody else have any questions?
It's not, Patrick.
Okay. Go ahead and call tonight, then.
Yeah, it's been a very good night. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice talking.